त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्री महागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ वृषभं चर्षणीनां विश्वरूपमदाब्जम् बृहस्पतिं वरेण्यम् ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवि चक्षुराततम् ॐ ऐं ह्रीं श्रीं क्लीं हसौः जगत्प्रसूत्यै नमः। Everybody say after me, Hare Rama Krishna 3 times. Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Any questions so far? Any charts where you tried to apply the principles and got confused? Or any charts where you want to test the class, like Kiran did last class?
I have a question.
Yes.
We were just looking at the chart.
Yeah.
And there is a parivartana between the third law and the seventh law.
Okay.
And there are 2 planets in the 7th house.
Okay.
So the first rule which we applied was that if there are 2 planets in the 7th house, if one of the Dasha is starting,
Yeah.
then you will look at the other planet because that's the effect it will get.
Right.
So that was rule number 1 which we applied.
Right.
Now the rule number 2 is that if there is a parivartana between the 3rd and the 7th lord,
Right.
then the 3rd lord is going to act like the 7th lord,
Right.
and the 7th lord is going to act like the 3rd. So when you make that switch,
Yeah.
then how do you apply
Right.
to the first principle? And which one supersedes?
Okay. The question is, see, we said that if there are 2 planets in the same house, they will end up giving each other figures. If I and Kiran are in this room, basically if we get to know each other very well, I will do Kiran's chores and Kiran may do my chores. I may take care of certain responsibilities that Kiran has, and he may take care of certain responsibilities that I have. Similarly, if 2 planets are together in a house, they act like the other, and each takes care of the responsibilities of the other. So that's principle number 1 that we mentioned in the past. And the other principle that we mentioned in the past is, if 2 planets are exchanging houses, there is a parivartana. If planet X is in the house of planet Y, and planet Y is in the house of planet X, then what we said is, X will act like Y and Y will act like X. Because if I am at Kiran's house and Kiran is at my house, we will try to be like the other person and take good care of the house, because my house is in his hands. So I better take care of his house and be like him. And same with him. So that's the intuitive logic behind that principle. That's the second principle. And the question is, when both are applicable, how do you reconcile? What is the order of application? Let's say I and Kiran are together in Session's house, and let's say Session is in Kiran's house. So who will act like who? That's a very tricky situation. And unfortunately, like I mentioned in a few classes previously, or maybe I mentioned it after the classes in private discussions, but like I mentioned in the past, this is a tricky situation, and the order of applying the 2 rules is not really clearly given anywhere. And even in practice, when I apply it in charts that I know, where certain events happen in certain periods, I don't really see a particular pattern. In some cases, the being together part is applied first, and in some cases, the exchange part is applied first. So there's no real clear thumb rule. It may depend on the order of the periods and subperiods. So for example, just because, let's say, Saturn and Venus are exchanging, it does not mean that Saturn will give Venus results and Venus will give Saturn results throughout life. It has to start after a certain time. There has to be a trigger. So until the trigger has been triggered, Saturn will act like Saturn and Venus will act like Venus. And there is a Dasha or Antardasha when the Parivartana will start giving its results. And from that point onwards, Saturn will act as if he is Venus. Though not fully, but to a large extent, he will act like Venus and Venus will act like Saturn, given that there is an exchange between them or they are together. So the corresponding Antardasha or the Dasha, the period or the sub-period has to come in order to trigger this. And depending on which was triggered first, the exact order of manifestation may be different. So my answer is, after this long winding talk, my answer is, I don't have an answer. So you are on your own. You basically try, if you know some events in the past, just see which way it makes more sense. And yeah. Yeah. Right.
So the original AL was in Capricorn and the second AL
yeah.
can be the Sagittarius. At that time we said that both of them will apply.
Right.
There could be a dual meaning.
Right. That is true. That is true.
But in this case I think also you've got to look at the planets involved. If the planets involved. Then I think
there may be clear-cut rules for judging this. There may be thumb rules that work, but all I am saying is that I am not aware of any. The only thumb rule I know is switch the result. It may not be from the beginning of life. It may be triggered at a particular point of time in life. But after that, that planet will act as if she is the other planet, or will act as if she is in the other house.
So last class you said if those planets are really not confused with each other.
Yeah.
Not even exchanging.
That is the other case. Like I said, when I say that, if I and Kiran are together, we become buddies and I do Kiran's jobs and Kiran will do my task. But if we don't see each other eye to eye, if we hate each other, it's very unlikely that I will do his stuff and he will do my stuff. Even though we are in the same room, we may be basically enemies. So similarly, if you see Sun and Rahu, for example, the North Node, if Sun and Rahu are together in a house, don't just jump to the conclusion that they will exchange each other's figures. Sun will say, after my death. He will not easily give Rahu's figures. Rahu may be keen to give Sun's result, but he will not get that opportunity. So,
But doesn't it matter that one is a benefit and the other one is a
that doesn't really matter that much. Whether they are benefits or malefics doesn't matter. See, basically look at it this way. If a priest and a thug are living in a room, and if they like each other, the thug may be a bad guy, and the priest may be a good guy, so to say. But, after they are together, priest may pick up some of thug's habits and thinking, and thug may pick up some of priest's habits and thinking. So, whether they are good or bad doesn't matter. But what matters is whether they like each other or not. A thug and a priest may like each other for some reason. But there may be two priests who hate each other, in which case there is no exchange, there is no pleasantry between them. Similarly, it doesn't matter whether the planets are good planets or bad planets, malefic or benefic planets. All that matters is whether they are friendly towards each other or not. Saturn and Venus are. So if you see Saturn and Venus having an exchange in a particular chart, definitely that exchange will give its result. They will exchange each other's results at some point of time in life. No, not in the case of being together. Even if they are in two different corners of the room or house, still they will exchange each other's results. Only thing is, if there is a Raja Yoga between them, if there is a Raja Yoga given by Saturn and Venus, and if they are the two ends of the room, it's very unlikely that Raja Yoga will be fully functional. It will give only marginally good results. Whereas if the two planets are together, because what is a yoga? Yoga means being together. Unlike exchange of results that we talked about, which can be done if you just say, if I say one word to Kiran and Kiran says one word to me, the job is done. Whereas Raja Yoga is a great result given by two planets being together and acting together. If they put their resources together and accomplish something, that is Raja Yoga. We said that a quadrant lord and a trine lord being together is a Raja Yoga because quadrants show effort and trines show the blessings that you get from God as a result of your efforts. Not only efforts, but the love that you carry from past lives, based on all the good and bad deeds you did in various lives, you are carrying certain love with you. So those blessings and love are from the trine. And quadrants show the effort that you are putting in this life. So when the quadrant lord and trine lord are together, the two aspects are brought together. There is a confluence between the efforts and the blessings. So you basically, when those two planets are working together, their agenda, basically one planet has one agenda, the other planet has another agenda. When they are together and when they consult for a long time, the agendas will basically collapse into one single agenda, which is good for you. If two good agendas which complement each other conjoin into one agenda, it is good for you. It means you are getting what you deserve. So that is a Raj Yoga. So for that Raj Yoga, those two planets have to interact very strongly for the Raj Yoga to give its good result. And if they are at the two ends of the room, even though they are in the same room, the interaction will be limited. Whereas if they are together, if I and Kiran are sitting next to each other, we are likely to talk and get things done. Any other questions?
Isn't that software, when we try to go to the data to view the data input, I think for Washington, there was Washington Century, there were same things, Washington Arkansas, there were same things,
Okay.
different longitudes.
Well, if they are in different states, that better have different longitudes.
No, they are different, no, I'm talking the two and two are the same.
Oh, in the same state. For example, Arkansas has two Washingtons. Well, it's possible. There can be two towns by the same name in the same state. Except that if you take any big town, any big city, you have only one of those. But this software is basically, the database that I use in the software is an official database from a US government agency. So if the software shows you two Washingtons in Arkansas, I would imagine that there are two Washingtons. But luckily, pardon me? Well, if you are looking at Washington DC, there is only one.
No, I'm talking
Washington City, District of Columbia. This is the one.
Washington, Pennsylvania.
Okay, somebody you know was born in Washington, Pennsylvania, and you want to make a chart. Well, you have to find out which one it is.
It's possible that the
No.
government software could be wrong.
No, I do know that there are some states where certain popular towns are. Yeah, I do know that for a fact. Yeah, exactly. Only thing is, if there is a big city like Boston, there are no two Bostons in the same state. Not in Mass. There are Bostons in other states, but there is only one Boston in Mass. But there are some less popular towns which repeat the names in the same state. Basically, software can't help you. You have to find out which one. What are the neighboring towns? You get them.
Taking up a job there.
Yeah.
Looking at taking up a Gurukrpa for him, and that's when I noticed there are two different
Yeah. See, the good thing is, even though there are two Washingtons in Pennsylvania, they are not too far apart. So compared to a Washington in Arkansas and a Washington in, let's say, District of Columbia, which are so far apart. So if you take one town in the place of other town, the rising sign, the rising degrees will be totally different. So you better know which one. But if it is in the same state, because most of the states in US are quite small, I mean not really huge, the difference will be minimal. If you want a particular lagna at a particular degree and minute, maybe the time difference is like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So you are within the 5-minute, 10-minute range. Your error is going to be within 5-10 minutes. So it's not that bad. But if you want to find out exactly, you better ask the person, where is this Washington, Pennsylvania? What are the neighboring towns? Then go to MapQuest or some map site, and then find out which one it is. So, or ask for the address, and there are some mapping sites which give you the longitude and latitude also. So ask for the address, feed the address in the computer, and get the longitude and latitude. Except that I can't help you. Even in India, for example, if you take a simple name like Gudur, India, in the same state of Andhra Pradesh, where we two are from, there are 3 or so Gurus. One is in Tirupati district, one is in Krishna district. They are in totally different areas. And because it's a reasonably big state, if you take one versus the other, because they are at the other ends of the state, they can be, you can get 15 minutes error. So that is unacceptable. So because Navamsa can change some divisional charts, lagna in some divisional charts is very likely to change. So you better find out which guru they are talking about. So that's a problem. Whenever you get a town name in the software, if you see 2 entries, you have to talk to the person and find out. Yeah.
And just start with that. I'll give an example.
Yeah.
I got a couple of shots from village 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers from Arudha, in Hora district.
Yeah.
So what is, since I'm not going to get the exact knowledge exactly, is there anything that I could approximate and
See, as far as India is concerned, there is a more professional atlas called SES Atlas. And actually the number of towns that they have in India is actually much smaller than what the software has. For US, what the professional SES Atlas contains and what the software contains is exactly the same, because they are from the same source. It's basically, I believe it is like 500,000 towns in US. 500,000 towns. Yeah. But in the rest of the world, that professional atlas contains, if I believe correctly, it contains less than 1 million towns. It's somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million towns. But this software basically gathered database from various official sources, various governments in the world. So this contains 2 million towns outside the US. And this is much bigger, especially for India. That atlas doesn't even contain some really well-known big towns. It contains only really big towns. And this contains some small villages also. But definitely there will be some villages that you will not find in the software. And to the best of my knowledge, there isn't any other source which gives you all those small villages also. Because if there is, tell me and I will incorporate in the software. So the best thing to do in such cases would be to find out the nearby town, big town, and then use that town as an approximation. Or some people are actually very meticulous. For example, there was a professor in Canada who went back to India. He, being a professor, he is very meticulous, very detail oriented. Perhaps. But he certainly was. So when I asked him where was she born? She was born in Canada. His daughter was born in Canada. He was getting a chart made for his daughter when he was going back to India. And he said, so-and-so town, longitude and latitude are so-and-so. So-and-so town centers, longitude and latitude are so-and-so. And I have to drive 10 miles west and then 11 miles north. Actually northwest, and it's approximately 20 degrees to the north. So he basically made a plot, and then he did some trigonometry. He found out the exact longitude and latitude. He used the radius of Earth. He did all kinds of calculations, and he gave me the exact longitude and latitude up to this. Pardon me? Yeah. This was like 8 years back. Now you just enter the address, physical address, then some of these sites will tell you the longitude and latitude up to 0.0001 of degree. So you don't have to do that these days, but he was so meticulous. So pardon me? No. He was an artificial intelligence and robotics engineer.
really? About the same thing.
So, I mean, if somebody is patient, you don't have to do that kind of analysis, but you can roughly say 40 miles northwest of Bangalore, so roughly so and so. You can do that kind of math, or if that's not possible, just take the nearby big city.
Actually, the fact of math from anywhere, second grade, go down, zoom in on the map.
I think you can download Google Earth. They give you longitude and latitude of every place, and then they show the map in a three-dimensional way, as if you are seeing from the sky. It's a very satellite map. Google Earth, yeah.
Satellite map, you can zoom into any town.
But no, but they don't have, I mean, they have some satellite images, but they don't tell you this is this village, this is this village. For India, it's not good enough, but it's good enough here. Yeah. If you know the hospital where the person was born, you can get the longitude and latitude up to seconds. So, wow. But the thing is, don't get carried away. If you have the longitude and latitude very accurately, you may think, yes, I have a very accurate chart. But the problem is, the time may be inaccurate. The time, even if it's inaccurate by 2 seconds, can make a big difference. So you should realize that there are so many parameters, so you can't get carried away and focus on one parameter and do the best job. Yes, I'll take your question.
I just want to know how to use the daily Tithi Pravesha chart. We haven't used it at all.
Yeah. Okay. This is, see, for those of you who are uninitiated, in the Tithi Pravesha tab of the software, here you can select annual, monthly and daily charts. And so far in the class, we have only done annual charts. We haven't done monthly and daily charts. But I have to give you a disclaimer before I say anything on this, that this is not exactly from tradition. Of course, the tradition does say that just like the annual charts, you can have monthly and daily charts. But how to use them, what Dasha to use, etc. These are not really given in the tradition. As far as annual chart is concerned, all our predecessors in the tradition use that chart very successfully. But this chart nobody really used, so we don't have any wisdom pass except that you can make a daily chart. That's the only guidance that we receive. So whatever I can tell you is based on my experience, whatever I found in my experience. It's not really written in stone, so take it with a pinch of salt. It may or may not work. Basically what you do is make a daily chart for that particular day. Like I said, when is the annual chart cast? The annual chart is cast when the person is born. A new year starts. At the time of birth, a new year in the life of the person starts, which is the very first year. And then, when does one day end? By day we mean the lunar day here, not the solar day. So one day will end after the longitude differential, the angular differential from sun to moon is advanced by 12 degrees. Sun and moon may be at certain delta at birth. So as time progresses, sun is moving slowly and moon is moving faster. And when the longitude differential between them increases by 12 degrees compared to what it was at birth, then one day finishes. When it advances by another 12 degrees, another day finishes. When it advances by another 12 degrees, one more day finishes. Like that, after 15 days, when exactly 15 days have finished, the longitude differential has advanced by 180 degrees. The sun-moon angular differential has advanced by 180 degrees. And after exactly 30 days, 30 lunar days, it has advanced by 360 degrees, which means the longitude differential that was there between sun and moon at birth has returned. So in those roughly 27-28 days, moon has advanced by something like 390 degrees or so, and sun has advanced by 30 degrees. So the differential is again the same, even though they are in different signs of the zodiac, because both of them are one sign advanced. But the differential of the longitude has returned. So that means one lunar month in the life of the person has finished now. So like that, days in the lives of the people and months in the lives of the people are defined with respect to the position of sun and moon at the time of birth. And like we discussed, roughly after 12 or 13 such lunar months, sun will be back in the sign where he was at the time of birth. Out of the 12 signs of the zodiac, he will be back in the sign where the person was born, and sun-moon differential will return. At that time, we say that a new year is going to start in the life of the person. And the length of each year, each lunar year is either 354 days or 384 days, depending on depending on the additional month. There can be an additional month which will come if sun is in the same sign twice. Then the sun-moon longitude differential returns. Sun may be at the beginning of a sign, and then the differential may return. And after roughly 28 days, sun may still be in the same sign, but towards the end of the sign, and the longitude differential may return again. So in that case, the same month is coming twice, because months are named based on the sign occupied by moon, occupied by sun at the time the month starts. So we have either 12 or 13 months of roughly 28 days. So we have either 354 days or 384 days. So this particular lunar calendar is synchronized with the solar calendar because of this additional month concept. It's not like the Islamic lunar calendar, in which the calendar is slipping by 30 days every year. So a particular month that comes in October now may be coming in April after a few years. So this lunar calendar is synchronized with the solar calendar, and the names of the months in this lunar calendar are not arbitrarily decided by somebody, but they are decided based on the sign sun occupies at the beginning of the month. So there are 12 signs, so there are 12 months, and one month may be coming twice. So this is how years, months and days are defined in the life of the person in the lunar calendar. And when I say lunar calendar, I just want to clarify one thing. This is not exactly lunar calendar. There are other variations of calendar used in India which use just moon's longitude. You don't care where sun is. Depending on where moon is in the zodiac, you basically define which month it is. So the length of each month is the period moon takes to travel through one sign. So it is variable. It is not uniform, linear, but it's roughly 27 days or so. So that calendar is the real lunar calendar. Whereas the solar calendars used in India are based on sun's travel across the zodiac. When sun is in a particular sign, it is 1 month. When sun is in the next sign, it is another month. So there are again 12 months. And again, moon's longitude does not matter here, only sun's longitude. But the other calendar that I mentioned just now, which is based on the longitude differential between sun and moon, it's not completely lunar, even though people normally refer to it as a lunar calendar. I would call it a solely lunar calendar because it's based on both sun and moon. It's based on the soul as well as the mind. Sun is basically, in astrology, sun is soul. He is the infinite light within. And moon is the mind, that which is reflecting that light so that you can act based on it. So moon symbolizes mind and sun symbolizes the soul. And the sun-moon longitude differential, it symbolizes the relationship between your soul and your mind, how far apart they are, and how much of the light of the soul is being reflected by the mind. So that's what the Tithi, the lunar day, symbolizes. So this calendar is based not on just the soul or just the mind, but it is dependent on both of them. So I would just call it a solely lunar calendar. So coming back to his question. So just like we cast annual charts every year, roughly after every 354 or 384 days, when sun comes back to the sign where he was at the time of birth, and when moon is exactly at the same differential from sun as he was at the time of birth, you make a chart and you use that chart to see what happens in the coming 1 year, coming 354 or 384 days. And we have Dashas that we use to compress, to divide that 1 year portion into various periods and sub-periods to see when which results will be given within that year. If you know that there are certain results possible during that year, you can find out when which results will be given by using those periods and sub-periods. Now the thing is, just like you can make these annual charts, when a new month starts or when a new day starts in the life of the person, you can basically use you can make a chart at the time the new day starts. So when the longitude differential between sun and moon has advanced by 12 degrees from the birth position, so roughly after 1 day from the birth, roughly, it can be the exact time varies from day to day. Roughly after 1 day from the birth, a new day is starting in the life of that baby. So you make a chart then and see how that day will be. And like that, you can keep making daily charts. And in the software, let me take my example. Let's take my chart. The data is April 4, 1970, 17:47:13, that is 5:47:13 p.m. Indian Standard Time, 5:30 hours east of GMT. The place is Machilipatnam, India, 81 degrees 12 minutes east, 16 degrees 15 minutes north. Now, if you suppose we want to make my daily chart for now, what you have to be careful with people who were born in India and came here is that there is a 12-hour difference in the time. So you better convert all the times, the new day time as well as the birth time, all the times to India time zone or the time zone here, and then use that time zone to measure the time. Otherwise, you have a 12-hour error. So what I will do is I will change the time zone to 4 hours west of GMT, which is the current time zone here. So the birth time is reported by the software as April 4, 1970, 8:17:13 a.m. So it hasn't changed the chart. The chart looks the same because the moment of time is still the same, but we are measuring it using a different time zone. So nothing else. Click this TZ, this circle where there are 2 lines and an arrow. Click this button and change, instead of use the time zone of birth, select use the time zone entered below and then enter the time zone that you want. Then what the software will do is the time of birth, the starting and ending times of various periods and sub-periods in life, everything is converted to this time zone. It doesn't change any calculations. It just changes how it's reported for you. Yeah, you have to. That's why I did. That's what I did. Because I am living here, I want to make my daily chart for this moment right now. When did my latest day started? Was it 2 hours back or 11 hours back? And how does the day look? So that's what I want to do. So I just change the time. See, when you are doing annual chart, it doesn't really matter. When you do the daily chart, you better do this. Otherwise, if you say, what is the latest daily chart before 10 o'clock on so-and-so Sunday? The 10 o'clock on so-and-so Sunday in India is different from the 10 o'clock here. So in other words, you could say, find the daily chart before Sunday, what is the time in India now? 7:30 p.m. So you can you can convert the time to India time. You can do that also. Instead, what I do is I let the software use the current time and just change the time zone. That's what I do. You could do either way. But anyway, coming back to the main point, if you change the time zone to 4 hours west,
4 or 5 minutes, that's 5 from me.
pardon me?
5 hours.
But right now the time zone is 4 hours west of the because of the daylight saving time. So see, the software automatically shows the day and time here. July 31, 2005, 9:33:18 a.m. This was the time when the software was opened. That is why it basically registers the time and uses the time. If you want, you can change it. If you want to know, suppose something important happened in your life. Let's say at 2 o'clock on July 1st. So change to July 1st and enter the time, 2 o'clock, whichever time zone, and then say what was the previous daily chart. Then it will tell you the previous daily chart. So I'm going to do it for right now. So let me change the time to 10, roughly 10:10. So before 10:10 a.m. on July 31, 2005, change this annual to daily. And you can say before or after. You can select a point in time and find the previous day or the next day. I'm going to do the previous day because that day is still running. So I want to see how my day today is. So click on this before and then click this Find Tithi Pravesha chart. If you click this button, the chart is found. And this chart is cast on July 30, which is basically the previous day, at 16:18, that means 4:18 p.m. So this is in terms of the time zone here. So that is why it shows 4 hours west of GMT as the time zone. So basically last evening around 4:18, my new day started. And it will probably go on till today 5 o'clock or so. You can do that also. You can say after, change before to after and click this. It is till 5:53:24 p.m. So until roughly 6 o'clock this afternoon, this evening, this particular day will run. And at 6 o'clock, the sun-moon longitude differential would have advanced by another 12 degrees. So a new day will start in my life. And the time when a new day starts in my life is not the same as the time when a new day starts in his life. It is dependent exactly on the sun-moon longitude differential at birth. When the differential at birth changes by multiples of 12 degrees, that's when a new day starts. So everybody's new day will be different. It doesn't have to be exactly aligned. So when you make this chart, let's go back to the before. I'm not interested in what happens tonight. I'm interested in what is happening now and what happened last night and what is happening throughout today. So if you look at this, how is today? who is the ruler of the day. Just like you have the concept of ruler of the year, you can find the ruler of the day based on the Hora Lord. What was the Hora running when the day started? Mercury Hora was running. So what will be the predominant event of the day, if there is anything?
Second house and fifth house.
Mercury is the second and fifth lord, because the lagna rising ascendant is Taurus. So Mercury is the second lord and the fifth lord. What do those houses show?
Resources.
Children, money, resources. Second house will show speech, talking, and Mercury is the significance of talking. And which house is he in?
Third house.
He is in the third house. What does third house show? Communications. It also shows writing. And Mercury is the karaka for communication and writing. So what is the main event of the day? What will I be doing? So teach, write, etc. And in any case, last night I wrote several pages in my book because I am writing a book on Tithi Pravesha. So last night I was busy writing a book, and of course today also after I go back from class I will basically be writing a book. So that's what basically the shows. This is a good day for getting more work done. There are some days, even though I have been writing for a month and a half now, there are some days when I get a lot done and some days when things don't really move. I don't really feel like doing it. And based on the daily chart, it does look like this is one of the days when I feel like writing. And is Mercury taking part in any yoga? Because, pardon me? Yes?
How will this play a role in the ruler of the day? This is the day starting from the sun moon conjunction at the time.
Not conjunction. Sun moon longitude differential return. Yeah.
But Sunday, the ruler is the ruler of the first hour is coming.
See, when you say Sunday, you are talking about that's the universal calendar. You are talking about the civil calendar. At sunrise, a new day will start and it will go on till the next sunrise. And based on the Hora at the time of sunrise, you have these 24 planetary hours. So if you look at the sunrise, the hour at the time of sunrise today, it is Sun's Hora. If you look at tomorrow's sunrise, it will be moon.
So what is the difference to be considered happening day?
That is not for me. That is for the entire world. That is a universal calendar for the world. And this calendar is a personal calendar just for me.
But I reckon in case what it is, when sunrise happens, sun is a Hora. And 1 hour after that, it's somebody else in the Hora. Like that, when the longitude or differential longitude comes back,
At that hour when this new hour started, it won't be the same, it may not be the same Mercury.
It will be Mercury. Yesterday, if you look at 4:18, it will be Mercury Hora.
so if you go back, in fact,
Because Saturn's Hora will be running at sunrise. Right? Saturn's Hora is running at sunrise. So 7 hours, and Horas will go as Saturn, Jupiter, in the order of the distance from Earth, the speed with respect to Earth. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, then Venus, Mercury, and finally Moon. And again Saturn, Jupiter. So that's the order of the 7 planetary hours. So if you arrange, starting from sunrise yesterday, if you arrange like that, you will find that at 4:18, it will be Mercury. Not here, at India. Because we make this chart not where the person is living. Irrespective of where the person has moved now, we make the chart at the birthplace. Just like the annual chart.
I have a question. When you ask a question, there is a Prashna chart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The Horary chart, yeah.
Okay, Horary chart. So how is that more prominent, or you see something like a daily chart and look at that as well?
See, there is nothing like more prominent. Everything. There are 100 ways to look at the same thing. Whatever you take in life, there are 100 ways to look at the same thing. Let me give a simple example. Suppose somebody had a throat infection, and if you go to a doctor, an allopathic doctor, he will look at it, he will put a probe, and then he will do some test, and he will say, you are infected with so-and-so virus. It will go away after a week. That is why you have this problem. You go to an Ayurvedic doctor, he will look at your nadi, he will look at some other signs, and then he will tell you, you have a lot of toxins accumulated in your body and you have a lot of heat accumulated in your body. Because of that, you got this infection. So you have to get rid of the toxins, you have to detoxify your body, and you have to decrease the heat in your body, decrease the metabolism in your body. So that is how he will tell it. If you go to another doctor practicing another system, he may tell you something else. And it's not that one of them is right and the others are wrong. There may be toxins in the body and there may be a breeding ground for viruses. There are viruses going around all the time. Why do you get them in your body, contract them at a particular time? Because your body has good breeding grounds for them at that particular time. So you may look at it from the point of view of what is troubling you, or why it is troubling you, why it is flourishing in your body at this point of time. So there are various angles to look at it. It's not that one of them is right, one of them is wrong. But if you want a complete picture, there are hundreds or thousands of factors. Whatever you take in life, from simple things to complicated things, there are 100 ways to look at it. This is like if you take 10 blind guys to a big elephant and tell them what this is. One may pull the tail and say, this is something that has a tail. Somebody may pull the tusk and say, this is something that has a tusk. And each of them has only small picture of the entire thing. None of them knows that it's an elephant. As far as one person is concerned, it's a tail. As far as another person is concerned, it's a tusk. Similarly, when we look at the chart in astrology, it's not that there is one winning technique. There are hundreds of techniques. Each is giving you one perspective. If I see from this angle, I see a particular picture. If I go from that angle and see, I see a different picture. And if I don't have the intelligence in my brain, I may think that these are two different pictures. But if I have that intelligence, I know that these are all the same picture. I may actually look from different angles and put it together and get a more perfect picture. So you can use horary astrology. You can use the daily Pravesha like I'm mentioning right now. You can use transits at that time. You can use the transits in Rashi, in Navamsha. You can do so many things. There are hundreds of techniques, tens of techniques that we have covered so far. There are so many techniques in astrology. Nothing works perfectly. One technique may have a 80% probability of success based on our understanding, and another technique may have a 60% chance of success. Another technique may have a 70% chance of success. As we combine all of them, the probability basically becomes closer and closer to 1. It becomes higher and higher. So don't look at it from the angle of which is more correct. Just experiment with them, whichever your brain finds acceptable. Because your brain may be tuned to certain ways of thinking. So certain other ways of thinking may not be your brain's forte. So in that case, you better use that technique. So experiment with various techniques. See what is working for you, and then start using it.
But both of them also are two different things. The daily to the very chant goes how the days will demand to that. What you're asking about question.
But the prashna may be about how today is followed.
I mean,
so
the prashna is going to tell you the questions are right about.
And also the answer to the question. And the question may be, how is my day today? So you could approach it, and like I said, it's not just prashna or daily chart. You can look at the transit. Where are the planets right now? Of course, this is actually kind of looking at transits, but frozen at a particular point of time. But instead of looking at transits of planets at 4:18 yesterday, I can see where the planets are right now, and then I can make predictions based on them. And you can use the Ashtaka Varga. There are so many techniques. So use whatever works for you.
You know that D1, there are all these numbers there.
Yeah. Yeah. What numbers?
Like D1 of daily down.
Here. Yeah.
What do those numbers signify for a particular planet?
I will not talk about it now. We talked about it briefly earlier. This is called Ashtaka Varga. Instead of looking at the chart from the point of view of the rising sign, you look at it from the point of view of Moon, Mars, Mercury. You take all the planets as references, and then from that reference, see if all the planets are beneficial or not. And then discount it. This is basically a mathematical way of judging how favorable planets are. And according to Parasara, Ashtaka Varga is one technique that people in Kali Yuga will be able to use for making predictions. According to Parasara, the current age, which is Kali Yuga, is an age where people are kind of ignorant. They are not really intellectually strong. People are dumb, They only think in one straight way. They can't get the full picture. So while there may be some material successes, people's knowledge and wisdom becomes the lowest in this particular age, according to Parasara. So he said that people want objective rules, clear rules where you can compute. You don't want to use your discrimination. So he said that this is one technique where the need for discrimination and wisdom is the lowest. It's a very mechanical kind of methodology. So he said that this is very appropriate in Kali Yuga. Actually the words he used were, for the intellectual pygmies of Kali Yuga, this is the right technique. That's what he said. So for a while, let's assume that we are better than that and try to learn other techniques. And when we fail, we'll come back to this. So we'll talk about it later.
You said at one point, one of the last one time,
Yeah.
your chart is off by 2 or 3 days when it came to the daily.
What?
Your chart,
Yeah.
and you wanted to look at the daily effect of it, was off by 2 or 3 days.
No.
But this time, one day.
Yeah.
Because the time was probably not right.
Okay, that's not this. When you make the daily chart, you know the longitudes of sun and moon at my birth. You know them quite accurately. It may be off by a second. The birth time is off by a second. It may be off by a little bit. But then the daily chart will also be off by the same amount of time. So you don't have to correct anything by one hour here. What I was talking about was the Vimshottari Dasha. Because you have this concept of, see, if you look at the Vimshottari Dasha, this particular Dasha, you can tell the software, look at an event on July 31 at 10:10 p.m. What is the Dehanta Dasha running? So if you see, the Mars Dehanta Dasha started at 9:58 a.m. today, and it will go on till 1:52 today. So this is, when you look at Vimshottari Dasha, the periods and subperiods in life. We are normally looking at periods. For example, my Mercury Dasha started in 1994 and it will go on till 2011. And within that, the Rahu subperiod started in 2004 June and it will go on till January 2007. So when you are talking about a couple of years in life and what are the important patterns in those 2 years, you don't need very accurate dates. Even if it's off by a few days, you don't really care. And as a matter of fact, in my chart, if the birth time is off by 1 second, let's say it's just off by 1 second, can you guess how many seconds all these times shown here? See, for example, I say my Mercury Mahadasha starts on 29 December 1994 at 11:43:12 p.m. Do you know how much this time will be off if my birth time is off by 1 second? Do you know? Let's say not 1 second, let's say 1 minute. Because even 1 minute is possible. So let's say 1 minute. Do you know how many minutes this will be off by? There is a rough formula. It's a rough formula. You can use the software to find out exactly. The rough formula is, if the birth time is off by m minutes, and if the length of the first dasha in life is n years, then the formula is mn divided by 4 days. That's the formula. So here, what is the first dasha in my life? The first dasha is, as you can see here, Jupiter. How long is that dasha? 16 years, from 59 to 75. Of course, I wasn't born in 59, but the dasha started in 59, before I was born. So a significant part of the dasha was over before I was born. In any case, this is a 16-year dasha. So n is 16. And what is m? Let's say the error in my birth time is 1 minute. So m is 1. So m times n divided by 4. That's 1 times 16 divided by 4. So that is 4 days. Not 4 seconds or minutes, 4 days. So if my birth time is off by 1 minute, the calculations are off by 4 days. And if somebody comes to you and says, I was born between 9 and 9:30, so you have 15 minutes of error. So it can be 60 days, it can be 2 months. So the dates and times that you see in the software, of course software will give you date, time up to second, as if everything is accurate. But you have to realize that it can be off by a few months easily, unless you have really rectified well. Definitely it can be off by a few days. So some people come and tell me, my Vimshottari Dasha of Ketu started at 5 o'clock yesterday evening. So I just laugh when people tell me, because you can never know for sure. And if you want to know, then what you have to do is, you have to go to the lower level divisions. Like I said, you can divide, subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. So if I subdivide, my Mars Dehanta Dasha is running right now. It is basically for 3 hours. So these 3 hours in my life are ruled by Mars. So like that you can divide up to 6 levels. It may be possible to divide further, but Maharshis and elders have taught only up to 6 levels. So when you divide up to 6 levels, because you are talking about a couple of hours, it is totally useless unless everything is totally accurate. So you have to rectify your birth time not only up to second, but perhaps up to a fraction of second. It has to be absolutely accurate. And also there may be small errors in the Ayanamsha, because of which moon's longitude may be off a little bit. And again that will cause errors. So what I had to do when I wanted to study the way all these fine subperiods, the 3 hour, 4 hour level subperiods are used in Vimshottari Dasha, I had to finally rectify the Vimshottari Dasha. Because the Dasha given by software may or may not be accurate. There may be small correction needed based on various other errors. So what I did was, I took 20 events in my life when I got married. Exactly at this time I got married. And 2 hours later we had the dinner. I had the food. And 5 hours later we went back to home and then we slept. So based on all these things, what happened when I slept, when I ate, when I did this, when I did that, based on all the fine events. These are not big events like so-and-so year I got married, so-and-so year I came to US. These are not such events. These are at so-and-so time I traveled. I got onto my car and during that hour I was driving. So looking at all the fine events, I looked at 20 events and then I tried to move the dates a little bit this way, that way, and I tried to find out when it made sense. And it's a painful process because you can't press a magic button and then things will explain themselves. You try something, some event explains, but another event doesn't make sense. You have to change a little bit in the other direction. So after trial and error for one whole day, I spent one full day on this because Sanjay told me, spend a lot of time, rectify your Dasha Shastram accurately, make sure that your dates and times of Vimshottari Dasha are accurate, and then I will tell you some principles to judge them. I mean, he told me some principles. He said, I will tell you some more principles if you get everything right based on these principles. So I was forced basically to sit and do this. So if you want to do this, maybe this is not the right time. Maybe after a year or so you will be at a position where you know all the basics and you will be able to do justice. This is a very involved thing. This is basically trial and error, very involved trial and error method. So when I did that, then what I found is I had to shift the Dasha dates by, of course this may be achieved by changing the date and changing the time of birth by a fraction of second. But instead of incorporating a fraction of second day, because with the precision I was using for my calculation in the longitude, it wasn't possible. So an easy way for me to accomplish the same thing was to change the days. So I just subtract 1 day, 4 hours and 17 minutes. Using the particular time that I use, I subtract that particular amount from all the days, and then I can explain all the things up to the hour, whatever is happening in my life. So that is what you are talking. That is what we were talking about. For me, yeah, that is just for Vimshottari Dasha correction. Okay.
I have a person chart with the figures to see if we want to know when this person might get married.
So you want to find out when a particular person will get married. Did you try to look at it yourself?
I did.
Yeah. And you are not fully sure? That's why you want the class to help? Okay. Give me the date. Date, time and place.
It's,
Oh, sorry. So daily Tithi Pravesha. So basically, look at the ruler of the day, how he is in the chart, what houses he owns, what house he occupies, and see if he is involved in any yoga. If he is involved in any good yoga, then you can say that that day is going to give good results. If he is involved in a bad yoga, the day will be bad. And then if he is in the 8th house, for example, the day will involve a lot of hard work. Let's say if he is in the 7th house, maybe dealing with a lot of people. So based on which house he is in and which houses he owns in the Rashi and various divisional charts, you can see the main events of the day. But what you have to realize is, before you see the trees, you have to see the forest. Before you see the forest, you have to see the globe. Before you see the globe, you have to see the universe. So unless a particular year shows that kind of event in that particular time period, it will not happen. Just because a day shows you will get married. Let's say 7th Lord is in the 7th house. You can't say you will get married today, because the person cannot get married 95 days, just because there are 95 such days. But if you see that combination, then step back. See the monthly chart, see the annual chart. See if there is a similar indication in the annual chart also. If there is, then you can make the prediction. Okay. So let me take an example. This is actually a real example. This was 2003. 2003, July 1. Let's see the daily chart that was running before 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. that day. Yeah. This is pardon me? Yeah, this is mine. Should be mine. So the chart is wrong. So this is not. I have to correct it 1 second. So if you look at July 1st, 2 p.m. Yes. Now the chart looks right. So this is a real example where I had gone for an interview. I was looking for a job change at that time. I had gone for an interview a week back or so, and after I came back from the interview, I looked at the next 10 days, 10-15 days. I looked at the daily chart of each day, and then I tried to figure out which day I may get an offer. And using a particular Dasha, which I haven't talked to yet, I was expecting an offer, a call, giving me a job offer between, I don't remember exactly now, but something like 12:30, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. or 3:30 p.m. So I basically expected. I may also have gotten lucky. It's not that the principles they work impeccably. The principles basically take you 90% of the way, and the last yard is basically intuition, because it's not completely objective. So using the techniques and using my intuition, I basically narrowed down on a 2-hour period, and I took bath at 2 o'clock. I did to a Shivalinga that I had at my house. I did Abhishekam. I was basically prepared to receive the call by 1 o'clock, and I got the call at 2:15 p.m. I got the offer, which I accepted later. So let's look at this particular day. If you look at the Hora Lord, who is the Hora Lord for the day? The day started on June 30 at 6:57:34 p.m. The Hora Lord is Saturn. So the ruler of the day, of my day on that day, is Saturn. And look at the Rashi chart. How is Saturn? He is Yogakaraka. He is the 9th Lord of Fortune and 10th Lord of Career. And so he is a Yogakaraka. He brings the fortune and career together. So he is a Yogakaraka. Not only is he Yogakaraka, how is he placed in the chart? He is placed in the 2nd house. Is he strong there or weak there? Is it a friendly house or inimical house? It's a friendly house. Mercury and Saturn are good friends. And who are together? Forget Sun and Moon. They are spoiling the party there. The lagna Lord Venus is there. The 9th and 10th Lord Saturn is there. The 5th Lord of recognition of ability, Mercury, is there. So all the 3 trine lords, the planets who show blessings and luck, all those 3 planets are right there in that particular house. How close are they? Venus is at, he's around 1.5 degrees. Saturn is at 9.5 degrees. Mercury is at, 923. So if you look at Mercury and Saturn, look at 2 of them. How close are they? They are like 11 minutes apart. So they are a fraction of a degree apart. So they are extremely close. There is a very close conjunction between Mercury and Saturn. Is that a Raja Yoga? Absolutely, because they are the 9th and 10th Lord and 5th Lord. So there are actually 2 different Raja Yogas between them. So there is an excellent Raja Yoga involving the 10th Lord and also 5th Lord of recognition of abilities. And they are friends. And one of them is in one house. So this is a, based on it, you can say that this is a very lucky day. So when I looked at the previous I think 6 or 7 days and the next 5 or 6 days, when I looked at all those days and saw which day was conducive to receiving a really good news. this day basically stood out. So I was expecting the offer on this particular day, and looking at the Dashas, I didn't use Tithi Astrology Dasha, I used some other Dasha. So I'm not, the event happened in Venus Dasha. Yeah. Who will, if you want to use the Dasha, who will give Saturn results? Because we see that Saturn is the ruler of the day, he is the main planet for the day, and he is giving, let's say he is giving a great Raj Yoga, so he is giving success. Who will give Saturn results here? Why? First you have to arrange, how many planets are there? 5. You have to arrange them in the order of decreasing beneficence. So first Venus, then the next benefic planet is Mercury. He is not as benefic as Venus, but he is benefic. And next is Moon, and next is Sun, and finally Saturn. So when we arrange in this order, the first and the last will exchange their results. The second and the second from last will exchange their results. So we have this exchange that we talked about earlier. So Venus will end up giving Saturn results. So Venus Dasha will run on July 1st from 12:45 till 5:27 p.m. So between 12:45 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. there is a good chance. So it was exactly during that particular time. It was actually this. It was Venus Mercury under Dasha which gave the result. But when I expected between 1 and 3, I wasn't using Tithi Astrology Dasha. I was using, at that time actually, there was an error in my understanding of the Tithi Astrology Dasha for daily charts when this happened. It was corrected roughly 6 months after this event. So at that time, when I tried using Tithi Astrology Dasha, which we use in the case of annual charts, in daily charts also, I did not get good results. Because Sanjay gave me a particular direction, so based on it I programmed it. Later he told me that was wrong. He told me you have to do so and so thing. So I corrected it later. So at that time I didn't find this data satisfactory. So I wasn't using this data because of the bug in the calculation. So I was using another Rashi Dasha at that time. And based on that Rashi Dasha I was expecting between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. But later Tithi Astrology Dasha was fixed. So even Tithi Astrology Dasha works in the case of daily charts. But you have to realize that you can't do this and then predict events every day, because you are looking at, like I said, when you look at the tree, first you have to see what forest you are looking at. So keep that always in mind, especially with very fine and precise techniques like this. You should not get carried away. First there should be a possibility of something happening in terms of the year that the person is running. Then you can look at individual days and see how those days are. Let us take another example. Let's say August 13, is it 13 or 12? 13. 2002, around 4:25 p.m. So see the daily Tithi Pravesha chart before August 13, 2002, 6:25 p.m. 4:25 p.m. So, pardon me? Was it August 12? Okay, thanks. Yeah, he knows, so that's why he corrected me. Thanks. So the event was on August 12, not August 13 apparently. So on August 12, 2002 at 4:25 p.m. an event happened. So let's see how this day is. Pardon me? Thursday, Monday? Okay. So how is this particular day? Who is the ruler of the day? Who is the ruler of the day? Jupiter is the ruler of the day. Okay? How is Jupiter placed in this chart? Pardon me? Yeah, he is exalted. He is the first Lagna Lord and fourth Lord. He is sitting in the 8th house. So Jupiter is in the 8th house. So if we are talking about occult learning, astrology, etc., this is good. But in general, the Lagna Lord in the 8th house is not that good. So this is not a very great day. And look at who are the other planets there. The 5th Lord. 5th house is the house of recognition of abilities, reward for the ability. So the 5th Lord Mars is debilitated in the 8th house. So is it good for being recognized for your abilities, or is it a day when your abilities are put to death. So that's what happened. And the ninth house is the house of protection and luck. Where is the ninth lord? If ninth lord is in the 8th house, is it good for having good protection and blessings? This is a day when the blessings are kind of withdrawn. So this is a, so from all these angles, this is, pardon me? He is in Mankargasthana from his own house. For any planet, to be in the 12th from his own house is bad. If the ninth, especially ninth lord in the 8th is bad. But for some planets it's not so bad. But for Sun, it is Mankargasthana. If a planet is in Mankargasthana from his own house, that house is destroyed. So the protection is basically destroyed. How is the 10th house of career? Venus is there, Moon is there. Is it good or bad? Two Dusthana lords, 6th lord and 8th lord are there. If Dusthana lords are there together, it's a Viparita Raj Yoga, given they are in a Dusthana again. They are not in a Dusthana. If they are in a quadrant, they better be with the lagna lord. If the lagna lord is also there, then that is a Viparita Raj Yoga. Here they are without the lagna lord in a quadrant. So this is not Viparita Raj Yoga, but this is just Viparita Yoga.
But it's a bad yoga.
Yeah. So this is, the 10th house is basically taking a beating. So if you look at this daily chart, would you expect, if I tell you that something happened in his career on that day, will you expect a good event or a bad event?
Bad event.
So a bad event happened to me on that day. And look at Jupiter in Dashamsha, because Dashamsha is the chart of work, the career and the profession. Look at the Dashamsha. How is the 10th lord? Because 10th is the house of career. How is the 10th lord? 10th lord is in the 8th house. If 10th lord is in the 8th house, what would you expect? Retirement. I mean, technically. But when you look at a daily chart, don't say retirement. When you look at the whole natal chart, the birth chart, if the 10th lord is in 8th house and his Dasha comes, you can expect retirement in that Dasha. But when you look at daily chart, realize that this Dasha is active only for a day. And there is no, it's very tough to define, to predict a retirement just based on a day. So you should be careful. But definitely there is a retirement-like thing during the day. And the ruler of the day, Jupiter, he owns the 3rd house. He is well placed in the 5th house of abilities, but his agenda is to give break. He is the 3rd lord. 3rd lord of break, of a short vacation, and the 12th lord of loss and compromise. So because the ruler of the day owns the house of short break, and the house of career is owned by a planet who occupies the 8th house of break in career, basically I got laid off on that day. There was a big layoff in the company. Several people were laid off on that day. So that day I was laid off.
Well, if you have known this one, from events you have think what guidance or what?
In any case, I was going on a vacation for 3 weeks at that time. There was an astrology conference in Ukiah in California. So I took vacation to go to that conference for I think 2 or 2.5 weeks. I was going to take it off. So I just said, okay, my vacation starts 2 days earlier. And I wasn't disturbed at the time. I was actually very relaxed and happy at that time. And when I came back from the conference, basically, until then I didn't even send my resume out. So when I came back, I typed my resume, and in a couple of weeks, I got a job. So I wasn't too worried, because when I look at the whole annual chart and the whole Dashas and Dashas, I wasn't seeing anything really, really bad. So I wasn't very concerned. You can't panic just based on a daily chart or a monthly chart. You have to look at the whole life. And if you see that there is something bad likely to happen on that day, if you believe in worship, basically worship a god. Who should you worship on this day? If you are suspicious that there may be a break in career, Jupiter. So some form of Shiva or Dakshinamurti. So because he is the ruler of the day and he is badly placed in Dashamsha and Rashi. So if you pray to that particular deity, there can be some relief. Whatever has to happen will happen, but the degree which you can't predict based on chart, which is a variable, the degree can be controlled by other means such as worship and careful manipulation. So, I mean, if you think that you are going to be laid off and if you decide not to go to work that day, your pink slip will come next year. So you can't really avoid it.
I was actually, when I was laid off, I felt so relieved and happy.
Yeah.
Because it was a torture staying in the job and I was not having.
This wasn't exactly torture, so it wasn't that bad. But I thought, okay, that's good, I can move on.
I mean,
Maybe because Jupiter is very mild.
See, Jupiter was exalted. If Lagna Lord is in 8th house, it can show some bad breaks, but still Lagna Lord is exalted and he has Rajayogas. See, the 9th Lord Mars and the 9th Lord Sun and the 5th Lord Mars are with Lagna Lord Jupiter. So there is a Rajayoga, though it's happening in the 8th house. So I was actually very relieved. Otherwise, even when I went on vacation I was spending time with Sanjay ji for the first time. Before that, I went to Delhi to meet him, but that was just a couple of days. And this time I spent 2.5 weeks solid with him. And even after we came back from the conference, had I been in the job, I would have just gone back to work. But because I was laid off, and there was no hurry to send a resume, I could wait another week. So after the conference got over on August 29th, Sanjay came to my house. He had other plans. He was going to fly from California directly to India. But he decided I'll go to Boston with Narasimha so that I can spend a week with him. So he came and spent 10 days with me. So around September 10th, he left. So around September 6th or 7th, I sent out a resume. I got an offer on September 15th. So everything worked out very nicely. So whatever happened on this day, I could say was for good.
blessing in disguise.
It could be a blessing in disguise, yeah. It could definitely be.
And looking the Arudha here doesn't make sense.
It does. It does. Why do you say Arudha don't make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll come to Dashansa later, but look at Rashi chart. Now, which Arudha Pada shows the formal job. When I say the work that I am doing, it's an intangible. But when you say the job that I hold as a so-and-so engineer, for example, principal software engineer at Broadcom Corporation, if you say that, that's a very tangible thing. If you say Narasimha does some intelligent work using digital signal processors, he does video compression, that's intangible. When you say Narasimha does intelligent work, it's intangible. But when you say he's a principal engineer, he works on video compression, he works on new generation DVD, all these are tangible aspects of my career. So there are certain intangibles and certain tangibles. And our thumb rule always is intangibles from houses and tangibles from Arudha Pada. So A10 will show the tangible aspect of career. It shows the formal job that I have, the formal work. So where is, and A5 is the tangible recognition of my ability. So both of them are together. There is a yoga between my job and the recognition. And which house is it going into?
8th house.
It's going into the 8th house. When A10 and A5 are in the 8th house, there can be basically some change relating to those. Some change in the job, some change in the recognition that I enjoy. Pardon me?
This is unexpected.
Some unexpected sudden development relating to career. Good, but the 8th house itself shows unexpected events. And Rahu is aspecting anyway. Okay? Pardon me?
Rahu, Ketu, Arudha.
Okay. Now, let's take another event.
My question was, can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
See, if you look at trends and other trends of yogas in the horoscope, most of the say 5 planets in 4 houses,
Yeah.
and maybe in prison. That's one of the yogas. And most of the horoscope actually it happens, 5 planets in 4 houses.
Yeah.
So that is that. It's true for almost everyone. Maybe in prison is one of the yogas.
Yeah. Those yogas, based on how many houses are occupied by planets,
Yeah.
those yogas are not that important yogas.
Okay.
The Navasa yogas, given by Varaha, Mihra and Parasara, those yogas are very generic yogas.
Generic.
So you should take them with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you see the 5th Lord and 9th Lord conjoining in, let's say, 10th house, that's a great Raj Yoga. So such yogas are more important. They are specific yogas to people. Whereas the yogas that you have mentioned, Akriti yogas, basically the shape formed by the planets in the sky, and the distribution of the planets in the sky, these are very generic yogas. So they should be taken with a pinch of salt. Yeah. Yeah. There are some yogas that are very,
Yeah.
basically rare yogas are more important than very, very commonplace yogas.
afterward, if you go, I mean, the question is that if you go back to the annual chart, will it show you some events that...
It should, otherwise it won't happen. If you look at the daily chart, there may be several other days when similar thing is happening in several years. But it happened on the day because it was promised in the annual chart also. It was promised in the natal chart based on Dashas also. So let us do that. See, instead of daily chart, let us say annual chart. So if you find the previous annual chart, which was, that year started on April 10, 2002. So actually, now comes the part. Somebody asked me, had you known, would you have done this? Actually, I did expect. A couple of months back, there was a layoff at the same company. They were basically going through a lot of fund crunch. So there were 2 rounds of layoffs. Luckily, they are doing fine now. They went into a hibernation mode, and I think, according to Kiran, they are again starting to do well. That's good. But they had a layoff. At that time, I looked at my chart. I saw, is there a chance that I will be laid off? When there was a rumor of layoff, I thought, now I'm fine, but maybe in August there is a danger, there is another layoff. But come August, I totally forgot about it. So I didn't, because I was more focused on the visit of Sanjay, astrology, etc. at that time. But if you look at the annual chart, see the Dasha I was running at that time. Yeah, so what? I didn't change the time, I just changed the way times were displayed. So I can still do everything with that. So when you look at the annual chart, pardon me?
Based on the time of the year, 4 or 5 hours in PM. So you actually, the clock that you're looking at even here, will be still one.
Yeah. See, it's showing the new year started at 2:24:50 PM on so-and-so day. Had I not changed the time zone, instead of showing 4 hours east of west of GMT here, it would have showed 5:30 hours east of GMT, and it would have accordingly showed a different time here. Instead of showing the time here, it would have said, it would be like in the night basically. Yeah, it would have added 9.5 hours and showed that time. But the chart would look exactly the same. The degree and minutes of lagna, the rising degree, would exactly be the same. All calculations are the same, except that when times are shown, the times are basically converted to the time here.
But I'm thinking you can US can 1 hour based on which month you go.
Right. It just blindly uses whatever time zone you tell it, because you want to see the calculations based on that time. That's all. So if you look at the Tithi Astrotri Dasha, moon was running. Moon Mahadasha, the moon's period, starts on June 28 and goes on till August 16, and between August 9 and August 16, the sub-period of moon within the major period of moon runs. So during those 3 days, the results promised by moon in this chart are fully given. Now what are the results moon promises? How is moon? First let us look at the Rashi chart. How is he in the Rashi chart? 8th Lord in the 4th house. So what does he show? And he is with the 9th Lord, Sun. So what does he show? As far as fortune is concerned, is it good or bad? 9th Lord is being afflicted by 8th Lord. So it's a bad combination as far as fortune is concerned, less fortune. But when it comes to occult knowledge, is it good for fortune and getting good guidance from Guru in occult knowledge? Then 8th Lord is no longer a male figure. 8th Lord is basically the main planet for occult knowledge. So he is with the 9th Lord of Guru in a Sattvic sign Pisces. Pisces is the sign of Maharishi. It's the sign of wisdom. So the 9th Lord is there and the 8th Lord of occult knowledge is there. So during that period, is there a chance that I will get some good knowledge from Guru? Yes. During that period, there was a conference in Princeton. So I went to New Jersey, and apart from the conference which was happening in the daytime, the evenings and the night times, basically a couple of other people, we spent with Sanjayji. At that time, Sanjayji had come to US for the first time, so he didn't have huge crowds around him. So it was just me and a couple of other guys. So we had really quality time. So during those, especially August 14, 15 and 16, he taught us a lot of important stuff during those 3 days, those 3 nights. And that is one of the positives. But as far as career is concerned, how is he?
fourth house of Sukhasthana.
Fourth house of Sukhasthana. So comfort. I was very relaxed. When I met Sanjayji at Princeton, when we met at the conference place for the first time, and when I met him, I just did pranam to him and I said, I got laid off so we can spend more time. And fourth house, you have to remember another thing. Fourth house is not only Sukhasthana, that is the house of comfort and happiness. It is also the house of learning. Fourth house shows learning. So it is good for learning things. And now from the career point of view, how is it? How do you see career? The formal job. A10. You see it from A10. So from A10 in the Rashi chart, how is moon? He is in a trine, but he is Bhadhaka. Yeah. We are trying to judge moon Dasha. So from A10, moon is Bhadhaka. And look at the Dashamsha. How is moon in Dashamsha? Basically, as far as activities in society are concerned, career, this is not only career, but career and various activities in society. So here, moon is the fourth lord in the ninth house, not 10th house. Fourth lord in the ninth house. So fourth lord shows lot of learning, lot of happiness, comfort, being relaxed, and ninth house shows discharging dharma. So as far as my activities in society were concerned, during that time I was discharging my dharma, my duties in the society. I was doing my job well. I taught Narayan Dasha at Princeton, for example, during that time. So all that happened. But Arudha lagna, if you look from Arudha lagna, he is the 8th lord in Arudha lagna. And from A10 again, if you see A10, how is A10? It is in the 8th house. A10 is in the 8th house during that year in the Samsa. So overall, is it a good year for career or a so-and-so year? It's a year of lot of changes, lot of dynamism and lot of changes and lot of could be setbacks, but lot of changes happening during that year in the career. And from A10, pardon me? Right. And from A10, moon is again Bhadhaka.
From moon, A10 is in the 12th house.
Yeah. We usually see from A10 rather than from moon. So from A10, moon is basically in the Bhadhaka, and he is having Agala on A10. So he has an influence on A10, but his influence is not a desirable influence because he is Bhadhaka. So basically moon period is not so good. Yeah. Yeah, but but Bhadhaka has to give some trouble. Now, no. You should listen to the previous audio. Bhadhaka is for movable signs, he is the 11th lord. For fixed signs, he is the 9th lord. For dual signs, he is 7th lord. So that is Bhadhaka. When Bhadhaka from any reference, lagna or any Arudha, when Bhadhaka Dasha runs, for that aspect of life, there will be something that comes out of sudden. Bhadhaka is basically the unseen, unexpected trouble. It suddenly happens, you don't know why it happened, that kind of trouble.
Also,
But
from A8 and A3,
yeah,
moon is very positive for you.
exactly. Look from A8. A8 will show a tangible break in career. If you look at A8, moon has Argala on it. He has Sukhargala on A8. He is aspecting it. So there is a very good influence of moon on A8. And from A8 he is the 11th lord. If you look from A8, moon is the 11th lord. So what does it mean? He gives gains in break. He gives the fructification. 11th house is the house of gains and fructification. Finally happening. Finally getting what you desire. It's the fulfillment of desires. And what are the desires of A8? A8 shows a tangible break. So the desire of A8 is to see me at home. see me out of job. So that certification is given by moon. And his agenda is very favorable to AA, and he is having an influence on AA. So he can give AA results.
Same is 11 from 8 weeks.
Right.
So you've got name before third,
Yeah.
A3
A vacation and a short break and a break. Basically. Now, who will give me job? If moon basically took me out of job, who will give me job? Who would have given me job? Is Mars likely to give me a job? Is Mars likely to give a new job? Yeah, he is the 8th Lord. He is the Lagna Lord in the 11th house. He is in the 3rd from Arudha Lagna. 3rd from Arudha Lagna means very bold, lot of initiative. So is he likely to give me a job? Okay. What about Mercury?
Mercury is the 8th line. So the 3rd house Lord. 6th house Lord.
Yeah.
Still a new beginning possibility, but less chance. Mars is not more likely.
Okay. Now, but the thing is, Mars has good agenda, but he is in the Bhadhaka Sthana.
Oh,
And he is in A3. As far as A3 is concerned, he is in A3 itself. And A3 is break, vacation, sitting at home or enjoying basically.
Is it like even if you get a job, it will be a contract, small term?
It could, A3 could also show contracts, like we saw in some other examples in the past. A3 can show either contracts or job where you are basically being out of job and enjoying it. So,
most of the classes we can feel there are so many months we had at the same time.
right. But if you look at usually, but Mars did have a good chance of giving a job because any planet associated with Lagna will give a new beginning. What, Narayan? Yeah, a fresh beginning. So, Mars being the Lagna Lord is certainly capable, but look at Mercury. He is the Lord of the house of service and he is in Lagna itself. And especially for Mercury, houses owned by Mars are very favorable houses for material things. Not for spiritual things, but for money, career, etc. Mars owned, coming?
Mercury is also
Yeah, Mercury is the Ophriyala. And for Mercury, Aries and Scorpio are very good signs in general. So, it was actually, yes.
Should we look at the 8th Lord also? Yeah, Mercury has the 8th Lord. 8th is,
Yeah, absolutely. Mercury is, see, you can look from various angles. First, you can look from all Arudhas. Everything will give, like I said, in the big elephant example, you can look at the tail of the elephant, the feet of the elephant, the tusk, the trunk, and then you can put it together. So there are so many angles. First, look from A8. Like I said earlier, A8 is a tangible setback, a tangible break in career. So from A8, how is Mercury? He is a lot of it, but from it he is placed in the 8th house. So 8th house is again break. So he is placed in the house of break from the break. So he has to give an end to the break. There is a break in the career and Mercury is placed in a house that gives end of the break. So as far as the break is concerned, he can end it. He can make me work again. And as far as A5 is concerned, like Palani said, A5 is tangible recognition of abilities. So he is the Lord of that and he is in the 11th house of that. 11th house is fulfillment. So there can be some tangible recognition of my abilities. You won't get a job unless somebody recognizes your ability. So as far as A5 is concerned, he is well placed. And look at A9, because A9 is a very important Arudha. A9 shows the tangible luck. If you get a job and people say, oh, he got a job very quickly, he is lucky. That luck that people perceive, it's a tangible thing, the luck that you possess. That is A9, Bhagyapada. So from A9, he is in the 9th house. And right, and most important Arudha is, of course, Arudha Lagna itself, because that is your overall image as far as your career is concerned. How people view you. Do they view you as somebody who is out of job and trying for a long time, or do they view you as somebody who is out of job but found a job quickly? How do they view you? That is your entire image. So the image that people have of you in your career is seen from AL. AL is always image. Because we are looking at the chart of career, this is image in career. So how is Mercury from AL? Is he well placed or badly placed? He is very well placed. He is in the 5th house from Arudha Lagna, showing Mercury gives Ketu's results, Ketu is the 8th house lord. So, it can be bad. It can be bad. But the thing is, as far as Arudha lagna is concerned, both of them are placed in the 5th house. Yeah. But Ketu doesn't have a Dasha in Tithi Dasha. Okay. So, if we are talking about Vinchotri Dasha, definitely that result would have been given by Ketu. And Mercury would have given some recognition with some setbacks, which is what is called by Ketu. But in Tithi Ashtotri Dasha, Ketu does not have a Dasha. So, when Ketu is with somebody else, you should realize that whatever Ketu promises as well as whatever Mercury promises will be given by Mercury himself. Or if Ketu is alone, his result will be given by, guess. If Ketu is alone, because he does not have a Dasha as per this system, who will give Ketu's result? Lord of that house, if he is alone. Lord of that house, planets who are in that house, if there is any, and also Rahu. Never forget that. Rahu can give some of Ketu's results. The North Node can give the results of South Node, when South Node doesn't have a Dasha. So that.
How come South Node doesn't have
that he is the overseer of the entire Dasha system. For the Ashtotri Dasha, for Ashtotri Dasha, Ketu is the overseer of the entire system. For Shodashotri Dasha, Rahu is the overseer of the entire system. So Rahu doesn't have a Dasha there. So Ketu will return the favor there. Ketu will give Rahu's result. Okay, now coming back to the thing, basically from Arudha Lagna, Mercury is in the 5th house. So he can give a break in the career during that Dasha. But can you say one thing? Can you say something about that job? When I accepted an offer on September 15, what kind of job was it? Okay.
Programming, software,
Okay. Okay.
Mercury one.
Okay. Which houses does Mercury own?
Mercury owns from lagna 3rd house and 5th house.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work involved.
Yeah.
But 3rd house, 3rd house.
So 3rd house is involved. So what does 3rd house show? 3rd house is the house of travel, contract, etc. So is it possible that it's a contract job or a job that involves travel? Is it possible? Can Mercury give that kind of job? Because 3rd house is involved. And also A5 is in the 3rd house from that. 3rd house from lagna. Yeah. So the job that I got is basically associated with my A5 and A10. A10 is the job and A5 is the recognition that I got. So because both of them are in 3rd and 8th houses, it can be a job that requires travel and lot of unstable environment. Because A10 is in 8th house. So during this year, career can involve a lot of unstable environment. So I wasn't really contracting. The job that I joined on that day and continued for another, I think, 9 or 10 months. I worked for 9-10 months in that job. That job was not a contract. I was a full-time employee, but it was basically a working from home arrangement. So the company was in Atlanta, and I was working from home in Boston, in Grafton. So for those 9 months, I was working from home, and I was traveling a lot. Every month, I would travel for a couple of days. So there was a lot of travel involved. So that kind of job was given by Mercury. And actually, as soon as I started, within that Dasha, as soon as I joined in that job, within that Dasha, within that Mercury Dasha, before November 6th, I had my first travel. I had to go to California and spend a week there. So Mercury is the 3rd lord. So there can be travel related to career. Okay. So all this came because of your question. Somebody's question that whatever we saw in the daily chart, will it be seen in the annual chart also? So, yeah, Vijay's question. So, unless something is shown in the annual chart, it won't happen just because it's in the daily chart. So, it has to be in the annual chart also. Okay? So, I basically answered your question briefly. So, daily chart, the way you use it is the same as the way you use annual chart. The It is the same as the way you use natal chart, except that the natal chart is applicable for the entire life, annual chart is applicable for a year within that life, and daily chart is applicable for a single day within that year. You can see any really important events that happen on a particular day in the daily Tithi chart. But like I said at the beginning in my disclaimer, all I was told by my gurus regarding daily charts is that you can find daily charts. There was no further guidance. So the concept of finding the ruler of the day, just like you find the ruler of the year, all these are basically my own extrapolations. And then I experimented. So it's not clearly from the tradition. So you have to keep that in mind. So, no, we don't. No. You are again getting confused with the Vimshotri Dasha. If the time of birth is off by, let's say, 2 minutes, if the time of birth is off by 2 minutes, that means the longitude differential between sun and moon at birth is off by a fraction of a degree. So when you find from that epoch, when you keep adding 12 degree, 12 degree, 12 degree, when you find a later point of time, again that is off by roughly the same time, because moon moves with uniform speed almost, even though there is some variation. So if the original birth time is off by 2 minutes, on a particular day, when you find the daily chart, when the new day starts, if you find the time, it can be off by maybe 3 minutes or maybe 3.5 minutes or maybe 1 minute, but it can't be off by a day, it can't be off by an hour. So it's basically of the same order, same degree. So, I mean, of course, you would want to have an accurate time, because in some cases, this Dashamsa Lagna, for example, if the time changes back by 10 minutes or changes forward by 2.5 minutes, this Lagna changes. So as long as you are concerned about the career during that year, if you know that the time is accurate within 2 minutes, you are all set. But in some other year, it may be on a border. If the time changes by 20 seconds, the Lagna in Dashamsa can change.
This is the same resolution as the regular Dashamsa.
Exactly. Same resolution as a regular Dashamsa. But the point I was trying to make is, the borders, the time borders, where the rising sign changes from one sign to another sign in various divisional charts, that is, those borders have certain values for natal chart, certain other non-aligned values for annual chart, certain other non-aligned values for daily charts. So when you use various charts, you can get, for example, in one chart you may say, if the time goes back by 1 minute, the Lagna changes, and then the event doesn't make sense. So the time better be not off by more than 1 minute in the backward direction. Looking at the annual chart, you may say, if the time changes forward by half minute, the Lagna changes. And I can explain very well with this Lagna. If it changes, I can't explain it. So the time cannot be off by more than half minute in the forward direction. And then you can look at a particular day and you can say, well, the time is 5 minutes on either direction, it's still same Lagna, so I don't really get anything. But maybe another day's chart, if you look at it, you may find that the Lagna is on the border. Within 10 seconds it may be changing. If it goes back by 10 seconds, the rising sign in that particular divisional chart may be changing. So you may say, well, it can't be more than off by 10 seconds. So you get different window of comfort. You know, based on the event, you know that this is the window when he was born. So that window can change when you look at annual chart. It can be a different window for a daily chart, a slightly different window for another daily chart. So by using as many events and as many techniques as possible, you can basically take the intersection of all these windows, the overlap of all these windows, and you can very confidently rectify. You can say he was born at 10:49 period. So that way, using these daily charts is very useful. But to answer your question directly, it doesn't have to be very accurate. Same accuracy is needed as the natal chart. And the one day error, possible error, is with respect to Vimshotri Dasha, using it at a fine level. You have to remember that Dasha is computed based on the natal chart itself. So there you need a lot of accuracy, huge accuracy.
Yeah, similarly, if you go back to the natal Nashitra Dasha, you have Dasha, all the other Dashas.
Yeah.
The time and period would vary because all those same different.
Yeah, exactly.
Only for Vimshotri, what you told is 5, so everything else is different.
Everything else, yeah, exactly. See, in a particular chart, let's say not Vimshotri, but some other Dasha applies. Chaturthi, some other Dasha applies. So you use the Dasha system, you look at periods, this period, so-and-so result, this sub-period, so-and-so result. But if you want to go down to the level of a day, Again, you have to realize that if the time changes by a minute, all the calculations can be off. In the case of natal Dasha, they can be off by a few days, sometimes even a couple of months. So you can't use all the low-level divisions unless you are very confident of the time. So again, you have to rectify based on events. So you better what I do, my personal way of using these techniques is, if I want to see how the next 2 years are, how the next 10 years are, how life will overall be in the next so many years, I look at the natal chart, the birth chart and the dashas, the periods, the major periods and sub-periods in the natal chart. And then if I want to go down, drill down to the fine level, how is this week? How are the next 3 weeks? There is a layoff expected at my company in the next 4 weeks. Sometimes people come and ask me, is there a chance, should I send my resume out? So for those kind of things, or somebody may be out of job. He may say, I was looking for a job for 3 months, I did not find, when will I find? So for those things, instead of looking at the next 3 years or 10 years, I want to look at the next 3 weeks, next 2 months. So in those cases, instead of using the lower level divisions of the natal periods, what I do is I look at the annual chart. The annual Tithi Pravesha chart, the lunar return chart, and then based on the dashas there, because there you have finer precision. Each dasha is for a couple of months or a month. So you get finer precision, and also it is more tolerant of errors. Of course, if you want to use the divisional chart, still you want to make sure that the time is within 1 minute. But the thing is, you are not expected to have the time accurate up to a fraction of a second. If you want to use Vimshottari Dasha to see what happens on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you need to have the time accurate up to fraction of a second. But if you want to use annual chart for that purpose, it can be off by half minute. Still you may be fine in many cases, unless something is on the border in that particular year. So most of the time you will be fine. And if I want to see what happens in a day, I use daily chart. But like I said, this is basically experimental research, and it doesn't work consistently. And obviously there must be methods whereby you correlate the year, the annual chart to the natal chart, you link the annual chart and monthly chart, you link the monthly charts and daily charts. And I haven't taught any such link so far. I have some understanding, and it's not complete, and I haven't even given you that incomplete understanding. So that is a totally missing link so far. So when you look at a particular day, you have to look at it in the context of the surrounding month. When you look at a month, you have to look at it in the context of the surrounding year. When you look at a year, you have to look at it in the context of the whole life of the person. Then you will be able to judge it more appropriately. If you just take it as a standalone chart which exists on its own, you will not get perfect results. So that is the disclaimer. Any other questions? We'll do it later because it's a chart. Yeah.
I think
He was saying something.
it's the same as a Prashna,
No, this is not the same as Prashna. Prashna is, if you ask me something at a particular moment, I look at how planets are aligned in the sky at this moment.
Okay.
And based on it, sometimes alignment of planets at that time gives a clue. At this time, the person had a certain thought in his mind. So, pardon me?
Is that very accurate?
In the hands of an experienced astrologer, it is accurate. But in the hands of an inexperienced astrologer, it's basically like guessing. Whereas this natal horoscope, using the birth chart of the person and making predictions, this is a science. I would call it almost a science, not exactly a science. It's kind of like a science. It has potential of being a science. There are aspects of it which are almost like a pseudoscience, a soft science. But Prashna, it is more intuitive. The role of logical methods is actually lesser, and the role of intuition is slightly higher in the Horary astrology. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means that our understanding is imperfect. And actually there are some Prashna-based astrologers who have techniques which almost border on being a science like the astrology that we are doing. But I personally find natal horoscope more comfortable, so I use it more. But there are people who use Prashna. And actually Sanjay ji, he uses both. Whenever you come to him, even if the data is there, he will make a natal chart, he will also make a Prashna chart and correlate.
Don't you correlate the Prashna chart with the Rashi chart? You actually put these things together somehow to use these things?
No. I can give an example in the next class, but I'll just give the gist of it. Basically, when somebody makes a prashna, somebody comes and asks you a question. If you want to use the prashna chart to give an answer, you should look at the lagna. See who is in lagna, who are aspecting lagna, who are with lagna lord. See the influences of various planets on lagna. There has to be influence of Jupiter on lagna for you to get an answer. If there is no influence of Jupiter, because Jupiter is wisdom, he is basically the teacher of gods. If Jupiter's influence is not there, that means gods are not willing to give you the answer at that time. You are very unlikely to get an answer. So you are not advised to proceed further with the prashna. Basically leave it. Say, I can't get an answer now. And then you go back. And now, let's say that is positive. Then you go to the Navamsha chart. In the Navamsha, look at the lagna. Look at the influences on lagna. What sign is it? Who is in that sign? Which planet? Who owns it and where is he? Who is he with? See those influences. There have to be strong links with the natal chart of the person. Suppose I ask you a prashna. My lagna is Virgo. So in the Prashna Navamsha, in the horary chart, in the Navamsha chart of the horary chart, Virgo may be rising or Mercury may be in lagna. If not, then something is wrong. Again, you are not going to get an answer. So there are certain criteria. So when those criteria are satisfied, there are links. And then what you do is you look at the Dasha. Right now Mercury Dasha is running, so Mercury is in the 8th house, so there is a problem in getting married. Like that you give your analysis and look at the Prashna chart. See what are the links there. Who's showing problems? He's trying to get married, but he's not able to get married. When will he get married? Look at the houses of marriage. See what are the afflictions. Maybe there is a Rahu Mercury affliction there. So you conclude that Rahu is a problem. Then go back to the natal chart and see, does Rahu have anything to do with it? So in other words, there may be so many influences in the natal chart. And when you look at the Prashna chart, it will show you the exact influence that is causing problems, given all the criteria are satisfied. And then you can focus on those planets and then look at both the natal chart and the Prashna chart. And then that can help you, especially with Sanjay ji. He uses the Prashna to focus on the key planets which are causing problems and then suggest remedies based on those planets, remedial measures. So that is how you use the Prashna and the natal chart together. We'll hopefully do an example in a future class.
Quick question. When you draw a question from, suppose somebody asks a question today here, so you draw a chart based on this location?
Okay, I understood your question. The question is, when somebody asks you a question, somebody calls you and asks you, I lost my gold ring, am I going to find it or not? So if somebody asks a prashna like that, there are two schools of thought in India. One school of thought is, you make the chart for the time when the thought came in his mind to ask you the question. When he thought, I want to know when I will find the gold ring, will I be able to recover it? I should ask Narasimha, and then he calls you. Narasimha, when will I find the gold ring? At that time, you see how the planets are aligned. So that is the technique that a majority of astrologers actually use, including my father, and I also use that technique. But Sanjay ji is of a different opinion. He and his gurus use a different technique. His technique is, doesn't matter when the question was asked. The person may come and ask me now, but I may not have time to see it. So after a couple of hours, I may decide to look at the chart, so I may cast the chart. So according to him, the moment when the astrologer makes the chart to answer the prashna, that's when he's tapping into the gods to get an answer. So that is basically his view. But my view is the other way around. I strictly follow my father. And the thing that you have to remember with prashna is, he is basically like communicating with the God with him. This is basically supernatural, whereas astrology is almost like a science. So when something is kind of supernatural, depending on when your God wants to give you an answer, irrespective of what you do, which time you pick, he will give you an answer. I'll give an example. When Sanjay ji was at my house, he was doing a prashna, and the time in the computer was wrong, totally wrong. My computer, it went for repair and it came back. So the time was off by like 10 hours. So he just used that to make the chart. So when you use the computer to say, make a chart now, it basically makes a chart for 10 hours behind. So the chart was wrong. It was neither when the prashna was asked, nor when the prashna was answered. It was neither of those times. It was just a random time that the computer felt like giving him. But he found all the criteria satisfied. The lagna has strong, Navamsa lagna has strong links to the chart of the person. Jupiter was in lagna. So all those things were satisfied. He even gave a very brilliant analysis. The exact problem that he synthesized, he didn't know anything about the person. And Sriram was there at that time. He found out the exact problem that he had, the disease that she had. And he found when that basically got worse, etc. Of course, he was using the natal chart also. So some of the indications were from the natal chart, but he was also relying on the Prashna chart. So when he combined them, there were very strong indications. He was very, very amazingly accurate with respect to the past, and he gave some readings about the future. He suggested certain remedial measures. So everything happened fine. And at the end I discovered, what is this time? How did you get it? This is 9 o'clock in the night. How come it says 7 o'clock in the morning? Or no, 11 o'clock in the morning. This is wrong. So that is the thing. So with Prashna, sometimes, of course, if you always randomly take a time, you may or may not get an answer. But when gods want to give you an answer, irrespective of other things, you may get an answer. So the difference between Sanjayji and my father, it may be not only my father, but Dr. Raman and various other astrologers. The difference between Sanjayji and others, it may not be such a big deal as far as Prashna is concerned. But if you basically have faith in God, and if you are a good person, if the God within you is happy, He will give you the answers. So that is the philosophy in Prashna. So I can't teach that. I can teach certain basics, but to be a good astrologer in Prashna, in horary astrology, you have to be a good person, intellectually honest person, etc. Just by using some rules, you will not get answers. Whereas, with the birth chart, with this astrology that we are learning here most of the time, this is more or less like a science, even though it's not perfect science. So, I tell you certain techniques. You look at annual chart, you look at the Dasha, you use those principles. Maybe not 100%, but in 70% cases, you will get a good sense of what is going on. You don't have to be intellectually honest, you don't have, the God within you doesn't have to be strong, because this is replicable, whereas the other thing is not replicable. So that's the difference between Prashna and normal astrology. So if you want to be a good astrologer, it's a good idea to learn both. But if you want replicable scientific astrology, this is better to focus on, the natal horoscope. Yeah? There's no Maharaj Yoga, there's only Raj Yoga. Okay, yeah.
So, when you see this and when you want to comment on the specification of this, Raj Yoga is happening in trines, when the Raj Yoga is happening in trines, that's when it's called a Maharaj Yoga.
No, not technically. His question is, what happens if a Raj Yoga happens in 8th house, for example? 8th house is the house of setbacks, lot of changes, trouble, etc. And trines are, for example, 5th and 9th houses are the house of blessings. Things that come very easily without any effort. The blessings from various previous lives. So now if there is a Raj Yoga in the 5th house, that person may get excellent results without, Raj Yoga will give excellent results. But because it is happening in the 5th house also, the person may get great results very easily without much effort. Whereas if somebody has Raj Yogas in the 8th house, his yogas may be fructifying with a lot of effort. And also, it may be his great fortune that is destined to do certain great work and struggle for that. So some people's great results come with a lot of effort, for some people they come very easily. So if a Raj Yoga occurs in the 8th house, it doesn't mean it is useless. It is useless if you want to just relax and do nothing. Then it is a bad Raj Yoga for you. But it will make you a Karma Yogi. So a Raj Yoga is always a good yoga. But depending on where it is occurring, the manifestation will be different.
Are there any lagnas which are better than other lagnas?
So her question is, are there any rising signs which are better than other rising? I'll tell you, the best rising sign, according to great astrologers, the best rising sign is Virgo. The second best rising sign is Pisces.
No, because I read
Third best rising sign is open. Whoever gives me more bribe, I will take. I will cancel.
I read in the book that there was some sign which was easier or better.
I can also write it in my book, but if it is in my book, I will say Virgo is the best rising sign. If it is in K.N. Rao's book, he may say that Libra is the best rising sign. I know that V.K. Chaudhary, actually, I'm just kidding, none of us actually say this rising sign is the best. But there is one astrologer, V.K. Chaudhary, Mr. V.K. Chaudhary, he came up with his own system. It's called systems approach. And he thought that all these principles start by stages were too complicated. There are too many factors that you have to weigh and balance. It's very difficult. So he wanted something very simple. Of course, Parasara said that, like I said earlier in the class, Parasara said that Ashtavakra is a very simple thing, very objective thing. But he probably did not try it or did not like it. But he came up with his own system. And in his system, he has this concept of certain lagnas being better than certain other lagnas. And according to him, Gemini is the best lagna because no planet is malefic for you. All planets are good for you. For other lagnas, there are some good planets, some bad planets. But Gemini is a lagna where there is no malefic planet. And it will be interesting to note that his own chart has Gemini lagna. It's true. So, take it with a pinch of salt. The rule is, the bottom line is, nothing is good or bad per se. He has his own definition of malefic. It's not the Parasara definition. The definitions given by sages, he has basically junked those definitions. He said, they don't work, they are wrong. I found these principles working. These are the definitions we should use. Of course, he has a lot of following. Even though now actually it may be becoming less. At one time, like 10 years back or 8 years back, yeah, he's from Delhi. At that time, he had a lot of following. The thing with Kali Yuga is, anybody floating any theory will have big following. Given that there is some good combinations in this chart. It's very easy to convince people in Kali Yuga. So, if you ask me, I'm not commenting on his approach. I usually don't comment on other astrologers' approach like Krishnamurti Paddhati or other things. But V.K. Chaudhary, I did try it very sincerely. I usually give the benefit of doubt. So I bought 6 of his books, and in my opinion, those were my worst expenditure on astrology. Unnecessary waste of money. And I tried it for like 7-8 months. I learned it because it's very easy to learn. If you are a reasonably intelligent astrologer and intelligent person, it doesn't take you years to learn. It just takes a couple of weeks to learn. So I learned it for 7 months. Exactly. And also I did some statistical study. I characterized this statistically, and basically it is a method where any event can be explained. If you say on so-and-so date, so-and-so thing happened, you can always find an explanation. You can give a beautiful logic saying that's why it happened. Rahu was affecting it, Mars was affecting it. So it's a very good technique if you want to explain what happened, but if you want to predict what will happen in future, every result is possible basically. It's that kind of.
You, in one of the classes, mentioned like.
Actually, let me finish the thought.
Okay.
There may be some systems approach lovers listening to the audio. I apologize to them. This is my honest opinion. And I know that there are some astrologers who follow this approach who are quite successful, at least during a short period of time. So there may be some astrologers, because of their luck, because of their intuition, their God-given ability, they may be making good predictions over a period of time. When their own good periods are running in their own chart, they may be able to make good predictions. But I can assure you that there isn't any replicable technique that works in a reasonably consistent way in V.K. Chaudhary's systems approach. So coming back to your question, there is no real, when you come to nakshatra, the stars, or the houses, or the signs, there isn't anything that is good per se, anything that is bad per se. Everything has good and bad with it. If you take Virgo, for example, my lagna, those people are very intelligent, analytical, logical, but they can be very blunt. They don't, for example, I was just now. So Virgo people are known to be very blunt, very undiplomatic. At the same time, there may be some signs. Libra people, they may be very balanced, very diplomatic, but they may lack in some other things. They may not be as intelligent as Virgo people. And again, you can't judge a person's character or abilities just based on the rising sign. That is one aspect. It is an important aspect. But you have to look at which planets are influencing it. So you have to look at all the, see, life is complex. Human body is complex. Human existence is complex. And you can't expect very simple things to capture it in an elegant way. So never look for good lagnas and bad lagnas.
But I think in some class before you were mentioning, you were looking at jewels and then there was a statement
Yes.
saying that, oh, Taurus jewel is like considered very hard.
Yes.
Is that, then how would you make that true?
Yes. I didn't say good or bad. What I mean is, again, good or bad depends on your objective. If you want so and so thing, if you want an intelligent person, very analytical person, Gemini and Virgo are good. If you want a very sattvic person, Pisces is good. But it doesn't mean others are bad. Good and bad is not a universal statement. There is nothing good or bad per se. But depending on what you want, certain things may be more favorable than certain other things. So the statement I made in the past is, if Upapada is in Taurus, such people find it difficult to get married. Is it good or bad? I don't know. It may be bad for me. It may be good for him. For somebody not getting married and having a lot of relationships one after the other, so that you don't have to commit to an individual, it may be a good thing for somebody. It may be a bad thing for somebody. So as astrologers, we should basically be aware when we are making value judgments, because astrological principles tell you what various things are. Whether they are good or bad depends on the person. It changes from age to age. What is considered good at a period of time may be considered bad at a different period of time. And also what is considered good in one culture may be bad in another culture. In Sanskrit we have this expression, Desha, Kala, Patra, which means the country and the culture, the time, the age you are living in, and the third is the class of the person, the background of the person. Based on these three things, the good and bad vary. So we should never make value judgments, but depending on what you want, certain things may be more favorable than certain others. Any other questions?
My question is related to the previous discussion.
Yeah.
How do you define the time of birth, exact time of birth? Because, see, I was in the room when my son was born.
Yeah.
And it was a severe infection.
Yeah.
And they said it was 15 p.m. when they cut the belly and then took the baby out. And there was a kind of a time delay. And I'm just taking 1:15 p.m. as the time of birth.
Unfortunately, I don't have a conclusive answer. What I learned from elders is there are 4 definitions for the birth of a child. For example, when you see the hair from the womb, when the body is coming out, and you can see the child's body from outside. That is one definition. And the second definition is when the baby falls on the ground. Basically comes completely out of the mother's body. So when she falls on the ground, it's called Bhupatana. Shirodarshana, Bhupatana. That is the second definition. The third definition is when the umbilical cord is cut. That means he is an independent being now. And the fourth definition that is used is when the baby starts breathing on its own. Just because he came out and the umbilical cord is cut, it doesn't mean he is living on his own. There may be a lag. He may start breathing after a few seconds. So these are the 4 definitions that are in vogue, that are given in classics. And as a matter of fact, there is a view in India that the exact definition to be used varies from age to age, from yuga to yuga. In Krita Yuga, it was the first definition. In Dwapara Yuga, in Krita Yuga, people are very dharmic, very righteous. In the next age, people are less righteous, people are more selfish. In that age, that second definition is used, which is falling on the ground, coming out of the womb completely. And the third definition of cutting the umbilical cord is used in Dwapara Yuga. I reversed it actually. Second was Treta Yuga, the third is Dwapara Yuga. In that Yuga, you use the third definition. And the Yuga that we are living right now is called Kali Yuga, basically the age of strife, the age when people are distracted by momentary things rather than permanent things, and people are far from being righteous. So in this Yuga, a lot of weird things will be happening according to scriptures. And in this particular Yuga, the definition recommended by some scholars is first breath, which is usually the time the baby cries. So according to some scholars, that is the definition that you should use in Kali Yuga. So even if you try to manipulate, you do a cesarean and try to manipulate when the baby comes out, the second when the baby takes a breath on himself or herself, that is basically not really in your control.
What is that?
Woman, yeah. So that is the definition that I use. But the bottom line is, irrespective of the definition you use, it is not necessary that it is correct, first of all. Second of all, it is not necessary that whoever noted the time at the time of birth, it's not necessary that they followed the definition exactly. Third of all, with the breath, you can't exactly measure it. Cry is only an indication of it. So the bottom line is, even if you are present there with the most advanced clock in the world which gives time up to nanoseconds, is it possible? Well, let's say it's possible. Up to nanoseconds, still you cannot be absolutely sure that you got it right. So that is why rectifying is important. You have to look at what happens in the life as the baby grows and then try to change the time a little bit and find the exact time. So rectification is always very important. A lot of people come and tell me, oh, my time is very accurate. My grandfather believes in astrology. He was in the room when I was born and or maybe grandmother, and found out the time exactly. So it is very accurate. I was born exactly at 9:30. And that is funny actually. People always tell me I was born at 9:30, 9:15, 9:45. It's always 15 minutes multiple, but they swear it's accurate. You don't have to rectify. I know it's accurate. But I guarantee you that in many charts, 99% of the charts, I do have to rectify. Even though they tell me it's very accurate, if you want to be very honest and explain all the previous events, you do have to rectify. So keep that in. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.